One of the greatest days of my life was the day I became a father. I mean, that's 33 years ago
Yeah,
now.
you're so excited and you're petrified at the same time, or you're like, "Where's the handbook on how to do this?"
Yeah, and for me it was deeply moving because I grew up with no dad. He left when I was 6.5 years old. Left with another woman, airline pilot, alcoholic. Mom was alcoholic. We moved from this very rich gated neighborhood in New York, outside of New York, to Ohio, where my mom's grandparents, my mom's parents lived. And so I'm the product of a single mom back in the 60s. And I didn't know a single other kid in my classroom that didn't have a dad in his house. It was that rare back then. And then my little brother dies of leukemia like a couple months later. So I'm left with my mom alone with no dad. And that was my upbringing. So I never had a sort of a family and a vision of what a family could be. So now I have a son, and we're going to start a whole new legacy. That's a big word for us. Change the legacy. I get to change what was handed to me. And so I'm holding my first son, CJ is his name. In fact, he's named after my brother that died, Craig. I mean, oh my gosh, looking at this little guy thinking I'm now responsible for him. And then we had two more. And leading and, growing, just doing that family is one of the dreams of our life. It was the hardest thing we've ever done. We thought marriage was hard. Being a parent was doubly hard.
We had no idea. We had been married 6 years, and then we started having our boys pretty close together. So I had 3 boys under 5. And I was like, this is hard, especially this Jesus. Like, I had been spending time with Jesus. Like, there's no time for Jesus. What does this look like? And so I kind of learned how to incorporate Jesus into my everyday. I'd have a Bible in the car. I'd have a Bible in the bathroom. I just tried to get a verse or two. I started listening to so much on, now you can listen to podcasts, and there's so much you can listen to. So it's almost like bringing him in. We would pray. Every time I would buckle my kids in their car seat, I would pray out loud when I got into the driver's seat. And that became this pattern and a habit that God isn't just the God that we pray to at meals or talk to on Sunday. He wants to be a part of every area of our lives. And so it was learning how to I remember I'd do the dishes, and it would be my confession time of yelling at the boys basically all day. Because as moms and dads, like, we're in it. We're juggling so many things. We're working. We're trying to have this great family. We're being pulled apart by so many different things in our culture today. And so to bring God into it, that's something that's so important. It's not always easy to do. And I can remember this one time. This is when I was learning how to cheer for my men. And all of our boys were teenagers at this point. And I think I was in the room, and I was like, hey guys, you need to go do some chores or whatever. And they were texting about me to each other in the room, like, Mom's crazy.
We found this out later.
Yes, and so I'm like, and they told me, like, Mom, we're texting, like, how crazy you are. I'm like, oh, I was so mad. And so I get up and I go on this walk. I'm like, I just need to get out of here, and so I go on this walk, a 6-mile walk, mind you, and that for 3 miles, I'm venting, like, are you seeing my children, how disrespectful they are? And I'm going on.
To God.
Yes, to God. I'm talking to God about this, which he loves for us to talk to him about our things. James 1 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives generously to all. And so I'm going through this venting thing with God. And so then I said, after about 3 miles, like, I am saying nothing more, God, because I want you to tell me about the sons. Like, why did you make them like that? Now I'm putting it on God. I'm saying to God, this is your fault. And it was so fascinating to me, because for our oldest son, I was like, are you seeing this boy? Like, he is just like, I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know where he is spiritually. I don't know what, like, he just says these things. And I felt like God said, isn't he the most fascinating man you've ever met? And I'm like, no, there's nothing fascinating there. I'm frustrated. And he said, he's just like Nathaniel in the Bible, which I haven't thought of Nathaniel in the Bible in ages, but Nathaniel is the man that Jesus saw, and he said, Nathaniel, to whom there is no guile, in you there is no guile or pretense. That is our son.
I mean, when Ann told me later that she felt like God said, CJ's like Nathaniel, you don't know him, nobody knows him. I was like, oh my gosh, that's an exact description of CJ.
He's an intellect. He's very, He's very...
He's awesome. He doesn't care what anybody thinks.
Yes.
He never tries to impress anybody. Of course, as a parent, when they're younger, like, you need to impress people. You need to care. He never did. And now you look at it and go, that's a great security
and
that he has.
Yes, and so when God was saying, isn't this amazing about him? And it almost gave me new eyes for him. And then I was like, well, what about Austin? You know, and I felt like he's this artist. I didn't know where he was. He's quiet. I felt like God said, isn't he just like David of the Bible? Because he's this artistic heart, but he has this fierce warrior mentality. And then I got to Cody and like, now Lord, are you seeing this? Because he's strong and he was super hard to discipline. And I felt like he said, that boy will be a leader among men and he will change and shape the course of so many lives. Wait till you see what I've put in him. And it's so interesting. I went home and I'm telling you that God gave me new eyes for each of them. And instead of pointing out all the negatives, I started pointing out, like, I see the greatness that God put in you. And that changed me as a mom. And I feel like God's always saying, come and get my perspective of these people that you're driving you crazy or that you don't like, or the kids that you don't even know what to do with. Because God's always saying, I have something for you. I might show you through the word. I might show you through a friend, or maybe you're listening to this, or maybe, the Holy Spirit's just nudging you, but he wants to speak to us. Sometimes we just need to put our ears in to hear him.
It's interesting, our youngest son, that last one who God sort of said to Ann that he'd be a leader of men, he's actually a co-pastor with me at our church now, and he preaches on the weekends. And in a recent sermon, here's what Cody said, which is so interesting. I remember it like it was yesterday. He said, when you see people the way God sees them, you will say to them what God says to them. And his whole sermon is about see people the way, and that's what Ann got that day. It's like she started to see the boys differently, the way God sees them, and started to speak life rather than condemnation. And the amazing thing is it literally changes people.
Well, it's interesting. That same son, the youngest, it was his senior year of high school. He had already had a college scholarship for playing football. And I remember he walked into our room. He was going to graduate soon. And I remember looking at him and I said, you are such a leader. I cannot wait to see the impact you make on people in college, because there's a charisma, a passion in you.
See how she's become a cheerleader? Huh?
There's a passion in you that when you speak, like, people pull in, they want to hear you. You don't even know how you shape people's lives. And he goes, whatever, Mom. And he goes into his bedroom. And he came back into our room and he was crying. I had hardly seen him cry at that point. He's 18 years old. He said, Mom, all that stuff you said about me, I'm a leader, I'm not that. I just got drunk last weekend and I was wasted. That's who I am, Mom. You don't even know that. And as a mom, your first lesson of a teenage parent is do not freak out. So I'm trying not to freak out. But I do remember saying, that's what you did last weekend. That is not who you are. Because what you are and who you are, that is true. Because God sees all the goodness in you. I see it too. And it's interesting, I think that we need to remember that. We define ourselves by our failures or our past, or maybe what's happened to us or our background or how we've parented. And God never looks at that as defining us. He looks at us and says, you are my child, and I have so much more for you.
God is love, and love comes from God. In 1 John, the Bible tells us that God is not only all-loving, but that He actually is love itself. The heart of the Parent Compass television show is to bring the transforming love of God to families everywhere. In every Parent Compass episode, true stories reveal family struggles and how their lives were radically changed by the love of God. Parent Compass, an award-winning television series, is completely funded by people like you. If you have been touched by God and you want to share God's love to others, would you please pass it on? Jesus tells us to go into all the world and to tell about Him. With your donation, you allow us to take this television show into many different nations and in many different languages, free of charge. And a portion of your donation goes to Parent Compass Outreach to feed starving children. Your gift does so much. To make your tax-deductible gift, go to parentcompass.tv/donate. That's parentcompass.tv /donate. And thank you for sending love and hope around the world.